Islam, 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 rising to my highest height, facing the east. Allah, Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Rising to my highest height again, giving perfect praise to Allah, extending all honors to all the true and divine prophets, namely Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, to the last prophet in these days and times, the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to extend further honors to the forerunner and harbinger of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. That's the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the leader and founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. I want to give further honors to the Moorish flag. That's the red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. Those 5 points representing the 5 highest principles known to man, being love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to extend further honors to all the ancestors, known and unknown, to the Moorish Divine International Movement, to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Free and Sundry Moorish Science Temple of America, to our National Grand Sheikh Jelani Bey, to all the members, citizens, staff, officials, and guests. I'm Grand Sheikh Hakeem, Islam, Islam, Islam. Divine warning by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslim governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We offer love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where our prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet in the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Islam. So again, like I was saying, I'm gonna get into some information about the religious corporation and the tax exempt status of the religious corporation, right? So the first thing, and I'm gonna share my screen so y'all can see where I'm from, what I got going on. So, right, the tax exempt status of religious corporations, constitutional protections, and IRS guidelines. Right, it says that the United States Constitution, particularly the First Amendment, plays a pivotal role in protecting the rights of religious organizations, including their ability to operate as tax-exempt entities. So let's pull up the First Amendment, right? So here's the First Amendment, right? It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Here's the kicker, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So Congress, which is the highest lawmaking body in the United States, they cannot make a law. Again, it says Congress shall make no law, number one, respecting the establishment of religion, meaning they can't make a law saying, hey, in order to hold this office or receive this benefit, you have to be a Christian, or all Muslims and only Muslims can receive this, or if you are a Hindu practitioner, you get this. They can't do that because that would be them being biased towards one religion over others, right? Or non-religions. Then the second part is Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So this is called the free exercise clause, right? Or the separation of what they say church and state. What it means is that the Congress, again, Congress is the highest lawmaking body in the United States. Even the president is not higher than Congress. So they cannot make a law prohibiting what you exercise freely under your religion. This is very, very important. So as as we learn as Moorish Americans, this is why we do everything according to our religion, right? Like we do business, we travel, we educate, whether it's health, medical, anything like that, safety and security. Everything we do is connected to our religion, our doctrine. And there's a way to legally on paper protect that as well, right? So, and anybody that's on right now, if you got a question, you could just drop your question in the chat, right? It says, hold on one second. Let me see if I could shrink this and move this over for my. So it says, right, including their ability to operate as tax entities, alongside constitutional protections, federal laws and IRS regulations provide mechanisms for religious corporations and their members to, again, and their members to manage their activities without being subject to taxation. So this is why, I see a lot of people. I had posted a video with this lady breaking down how she operates things through a church or whatever. What she really means is a religious corporation. Because when you hear church, people automatically think Christianity. But any a church, a temple, a mosque, whether it's a Hindu temple, Buddhist temple, Islamic mosque, even a Christian church, Christian Science building, or whatever, it applies in all of those ways. And when people hear church, they automatically think of building with four walls, pastor, deacons, preacher, all of that. That is a form of religious corporation, right? And that's what most people know or think of when they hear religious corporation. But you got to understand the word corporation is in there, right? So a religious corporation is just a corporation that is religious by connection or in its nature, right? And it says, again, they provide mechanisms for religious corporations and their members to manage their activities without being subject to taxation. Because you got to understand, a religious corporation or a religious business is not going to manage itself. It has to have a trustee to manage it. So, for instance, as a society of Moors or Moorish Americans, we operate under the religious corporation known as the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Our particular denomination is the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Free and Sundry Moorish Science Temple of America. That's our societal religious corporation. Now, that religious corporation and its members, those that become members of that particular religious society, can have and operate their own businesses. Remember, because you have to be a member. That's what it says, and their members. So as long as you're a member, speaking from our vantage point of our religious society and corporation, if you as a member want to do business, say you operate like a floral company, you sell flowers, or you sell tea and tonic, or you have a service where you might do massages, or you might, whatever the case might be, whatever your business, you might have a landscaping business or something like that. You can incorporate your business under the temple and create your own religious corporation so that you could operate in the public, provide services, products, etc. But there's a way to do that, right? There's some key elements that you need to have in place to be able to stand on or back what you're doing so that you can be tax exempt in your individual business that falls underneath the temple or underneath the religious society. This is very important because I don't want people to think like, oh, you could just go be anybody. You don't have no affiliation to any type of religious society. Y'all mute your phones, please. Islam. You can have any like just connection to You don't have no connection to anything, no religious society, and you could just be Joe Blow with a social security card, operating in the public under your estate name, right? The name that you was born with on the social security card and the birth certificate, and create a religious corporation and just start operating and be and you good to go. I'm not saying that. Again, what I'm saying is, especially from the perspective of who I am and the society that I'm a part of, you have to be a member, because if the IRS does run down on you and they say, "Oh, we noticed you've been operating a religious corporation and haven't been paying taxes, and we want you to show and prove." Well, how you going to show and prove if you don't have no, you just out? It's going to be very hard for you to stand on what you trying to claim is your truth, as opposed to like a person like myself, who my business, right? I operate a financial services company where we help people fix their credit, right? My business is a religious corporation under the temple, right? I've never had any issue with the IRS on taxes or anything. I haven't had no issues. You know what I'm saying? But if they was to come to me and ask, I have documentation proving who I am. My name is Hakeem Yosef Bey, right? I'm a member of the Most Holy Temple Science of the Word for Sunday More Science Temple of America. As a matter of fact, I'm an official of this religious corporation, and my business is incorporated under our temple. It's an auxiliary of our temple, right? So you have to be able to, and there's other documentation too that I'm going to show you guys in the IRS code, that as an individual member, you according to this document are automatically exempt from taxes. The IRS code, the actual document that they have for this tax exemption for a member of a religious society, when it comes to this specific document that we issue our members, or that you can, you purchase at expense, this particular document is in the IRS code, and it says that if you have done or signed this type of document, you are automatically exempt from self-employment tax. So if you are a business, if you are operating a religious corporation, or your business as a religious corporation under, again, from our perspective, under the temple, and you've taken this specific vow, and people, when I get to that document, people, I'm gonna explain a little bit more, because people have a problem with the document or the wording of the document. But you have to understand, this is law. We dealing with law. We can't be so rigid about etymology and words and stuff like that. It's not that serious, right? So continuing, it says, below we explore the legal framework underpinning these protections, supported by relevant case law and a detailed explanation of the IRS's recognition of, this is the document, of religious vows of poverty, right? So again, we're going to go into some case law. Y'all should be taking notes as well, so you can write down these cases and look them up on your own time, so you can do your further investigation into these cases. But the document that we're talking about is called the religious vow of poverty. Now, the vow of poverty, even though it sounds like, I know how it sounds. I'm taking a vow it sounds like I'm taking a vow to always be in poverty. That's not what's going on. No, you're not saying that you're always going to be in poverty. What the religious vow of poverty basically says is that you don't make income for yourself personally, that any finances that come through your business is for the benefit of your society, which, when you are a citizen of the United States of America, you pretty much doing the same thing, but without a vow of poverty, because any income that you make, the IRS is taking chunks of that and putting it into their society. This is why you have to pay for social. This is what Social Security is. This is what your state tax is. This is what your federal tax is. This is what your FICA tax is. This is what Medicaid, Medicare. All of this comes straight out of your check before you even see it. These are levies against you. So you're already taking a vow of poverty to the United States corporation. When you become employed under that Social Security number, remember, Social Security, social meaning in the public, security meaning like a bond or in financial terms, a security is a bond or a stock, but it's just a Social Security. So you paying into this already. The moment you're born and you get that Social Security number, that's your vow, that's your, for lack of a better term, vow of poverty. So again, our religious vow of poverty just basically say anything that comes through my business that I do under my society is meant to benefit my entire society. Now, you as an individual are part of that society. Your family that is in your household is part of that society. So the income, whatever's coming in and whatever expenses you have to live have to cover that and be able to take care of whatever expenses your religious society or the religious society that you're a part of incurs as well. So it's two sides of the same coin. It's just either you're going to operate in the public as a US citizen or you operating in the private under religion. And that's the only thing that's private in the United States. I don't care if you got a trust, even trusts are not 100% private, right? And we're not talking about 501c3 nonprofit organizations here, because some churches or certain religious organizations are 501c3s, which are subject to IRS regulation. We're talking about a 508c1a type of organization, which is not subject to IRS regulation. There's a difference between a religious organization that has applied for a 501c3 status and they have to report to the IRS, and a religious organization that is a 508c3 status that doesn't have any obligation to like the IRS or anything. And you can establish a religious corporation without having to set up a 501c3, whatever it's called. I don't even, you know what I'm saying? You don't need one of those. Because you set the religious corporation up first under the Secretary of State, and then you apply for a 501c3 status. If you're a religious corporation, whether it's the societal corporation where you got members that are part of a religious group, or a religious corporation that's an individual, not individual, but is a business entity that's operated by a certain number of individuals. There's another thing. When you establish a religious corporation, you have to have 3 people, because a religious corporation is by default and by nature a not-for-profit organization. So you have to run it, or it operates in the same way that any other nonprofit organization operates. There is no single owner per se. There may be a single operator or a main person that runs the business, but in order to establish a religious corporation, you need 3 members. You need at least 3 people, right? This is important to understand because I've seen this happen before too, where people will go out and try to establish a religious corporation and make themselves the 3 persons, right? They'll put their name, a regular member, they put their name again as president, and then they put their name again as CEO or something like that, or agent. You can't do that. You can't be 3 people in one. This is another aspect of the Trinity or because in our doctrine, we learn about the triune Allah, right? This is another thing that separates us from the Sunni and the Shia Muslims. They don't believe that God is that there's a triune God. They don't believe in a Trinity or a triune God. We believe in a triune Allah, right? That's another demonstration. But again, it takes at least 3 people, right? Because where 2 or more are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst, right? This is a concept that we find in the Holy Bible, which we're taught not to throw away and not to do away with. Right? Sunni and Shia Muslims, those that are part of the wider Islamic society, they do not necessarily deal with the Bible. We do as Moors, in our oral statements from our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which is like sort of kind of like a hadith, it's sort of like our Moorish hadith, although we don't consider this law because it's not part of our doctrine, right? He does mention that, Moors do not throw away your Bible. He said, don't throw away your Bible because I'm going to use it to condemn the Europeans. So we don't do away with the Bible. We understand that the Bible is a significant part of the Holy Quran, of Mecca, right? We understand that the Quran confirms the Bible. It does not say that the Bible is corrupted, that the text of the scripture is changed, right? There's a lot of misinterpretation when it comes to the wider Muslim society that we as Moors, who, when you really do the knowledge to who Prophet Muhammad was, we are the direct descendants of Prophet Muhammad in America. This is another big secret because the people we see in Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, North Africa, that are like the heads of these Islamic states and stuff like that, they very pale skinned. Muhammad was not a pale skinned man. Muhammad was a very dark skinned man. He was an Arab. He's an original Arab. Original Arabs are dark like us, right? And there's nothing against our lighter complected brothers because some of them do have the bloodline in them. It's just we are more of a direct descendant from Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? Some of us, or majority of us, we all part of the same family, but we got to understand certain things, right? So, an important part of the process when establishing a tax exempt entity that you want to run as a business, you need to take the vow of poverty. You should have that document on deck. And again, I'm gonna pull up. Let me see if I can pull up the IRS form right now. Let's get into it. We're gonna get into it right now, as a matter of fact. Let me see if this is yes. Okay, this is the document. Write this document down, y'all. Now, again, from our perspective as Moorish American Muslims under the jurisdiction of our Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Holy Temple Science of the World, Free and Sunday Moorish Science Temple of America, we don't have to fill out this application. We're not required to fill out this application. But this is Form 4361, application for exemption from self-employment tax for use by ministers, members of religious orders, and Christian Science practitioners. So again, this is the IRS has already taken care of these type of things. This is not a big secret. This is not some spooky booger practice. Like, they already have a form that is meant for you if you are sincere about this thing. Again, this ain't for people. If you don't believe in religion, if you don't believe in a higher power, a God, whether it, and it's not just for people that's Moors or Muslims. Even if you look, the form says, and Christian Science practitioner. If you're a Christian, if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Hindu, if you're a Sikh, or if you want to go start your own religion, to be honest, the door to religious freedom is open to everybody in America. This is what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught us. You can't, if you and two other people say that y'all worship a tree and twice out of the month, y'all get together and go to that tree and sit in front of that tree and pray to that tree, and that's your God, and you put that on paper, and if that's what it is for y'all, who gonna tell you any different? According to the law, people can have their opinion and say, man, y'all crazy, y'all worshiping a tree, that's shirk, that's blasphemy, that's paganism. You can't do it. They can say that, but if that's what you want to do, you could do that. This is why even the church of they have satanic churches. They are recognized as religious corporations. They worship Satan. We don't do that. We don't support that. We don't agree with that at all. But if that's what they doing and that's how they on file as a religious society that they worship in Satan, that's what is legal in America. They can't go to a Muslim country and do that. But here in America, the door, like our prophet taught us, the door to religious freedom is open to everybody, and all may pass through it, no matter what you might work. So again, this IRS, the IRS has an application already set up for exemption from self-employment tax by use of ministers, members of religious orders, and Christian Science practitioners. Right? Now, I'm gonna keep this up and we're gonna come back to it because I'm gonna show you the part where it reinforces the uh where it reinforces the vow of poverty document, right? So again, the constitutional basis for this argument is the First Amendment. And I'm gonna reiterate this. You in order to go about doing this, establish a religious tax exempt business or tax exempt entity under a religious corporation, you need to be part of a religious society or order. Like, don't play with the IRS. Be sincere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Um, like for real, you know what I mean? And if you're not, you know, if you're interested in moral science, if you're interested in the things that we teach and we practice, join our organization. And we can help you establish your own business entity, tax exempt business entity. You know, I talked to the National Grand Sheik about this. This is another, you know, a consulting practice that we need to incorporate into our society to not only help our people, but in order to help us with generating finance for our nation. You know, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali talked about that in the letter to be read at every meeting. Even he himself, he said, we need finance and we need it bad. Never before has there been a time that we need finance more than now. Even in our Moorish literature, he talks about the preaching of economic security among us not being as widespread and intense as our circumstances demand, and that there's no one other thing that's more needed among us at this time than greater economic power. We need to, and we supposed to be industrious. That's another part of our deen as Moorish Americans, as we taught by our prophet, that we have to be industrious. Part of being industrious is setting up your own business, but you need to do it and operate it as instructed by our prophet and as a Moor and as a Muslim. Because as Muslims or Muslims, we supposed to do business amongst each other. We're not supposed to be contracting with any type of entity outside of our own society. Like, I'm not gonna go to China and incorporate my business with the Chinese just to do business. I'm gonna do it under my temple, under my government and jurisdiction, because we as a religious society, we are a government. This is your government. If you're a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, your government is the grand body. Your grand body is the same thing as your congressman, right? Your grand sheik is the same thing as your governor or your mayor. Your assistant grand sheik is the lieutenant governor, right? We have a chairman, we have a treasurer, we have secretaries. You know, these are constitutional positions. So the First Amendment to the United States Constitution states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This provision safeguards the free exercise of religion and ensures that the government cannot unduly interfere with religious practices. Religious organizations often argue that taxation would constitute an infringement on their free exercise of religion. The Supreme Court has consistently affirmed that religious entities are entitled to exemptions under these provisions. And again, we just looked at the IRS document, Form 4361, that reinforces this very fact, that there are exemptions from taxes for members of religious orders and organizations. So the first key, so this is some of the case law, right? It's called Walls versus Tax Commission of the City of New York in 1970. In this case, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of tax exemptions for religious organizations, reasoning that such exemptions reduce government entanglement with religion. Justice Berger stated that taxation could threaten the independence of religious institutions and, by extension, violate the First Amendment. This is a Supreme Court case. This is Supreme Court case law. There's no higher court in the land than the Supreme Court. There's no higher judicial body in the land than Congress. If Congress can't make a law prohibiting the free exercise of religion, then why are we not exercising our religion in everything that we do? Because if they can't make a law prohibiting it, then there's no law that you can break. This is the kick. That's the kicker. See, this is what we got to really understand as Moors specifically. This is what I teach all the time on these calls. You know, the reason why this is so foreign to us, because we conditions from birth, us, our parents, the generations before us, that in order to operate and do things in the public, you have to have a driver's license, a state ID. You got to have that social security card. You got to have all of these different things that put you under the jurisdiction of the United States. We feel like we have to have these things in order to participate in society, right? So this is one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest hindrances with us moving forward as a society of Moorish Americans, because so many of our people that are Moors that would join a temple, that would participate in these type of things, are scared to operate that way. Me personally, I don't have a driver's license, right? I just dropped the ebook. It's on the website on how I was able to beat my traffic case, right? I was stopped for making a turn on red when I wasn't supposed to turn on red. The officer issued me a ticket for that violation, right? Making a right turn on red when I wasn't supposed to, driving without a license, driving without insurance, minimal insurance, and operating an unregistered motor vehicle. Those was the charges. All the charges was dropped. I didn't have to pay a fine. I didn't have to reinstate no license. I didn't have to go get a license. I didn't have to register my car. I didn't have to get insurance or nothing. But that's because the property, which was the vehicle, is registered to our religious corporation called the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations. The same way that the state has what's called the DMV. And again, those that just got on the call, Tyrone, what's going on? I see you, brother. If you have any questions, just drop it in the chat and we'll open it up at the end. Elaine, the same thing for you, brother Cam. I see you. And brother Yazin, you already know what time it is. But um uh they dropped the charges. I didn't have to do any of those different things. And this is all because, so a lot of people talk about the right to travel. I know I'm deviating from the topic of discussion, but I want to touch on this too, because it's important. We're going to do a demonstration on this as well. The right to travel. I could pull up the documents from our case and everything. Matter of fact, in the ebook is all in there, right? The license plate, the ID that we use, the actual case, when I caught the case, the dispensation. But again, just the same way that they have a DMV, right? Department of Motor Vehicles, we have a Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations. They serve the same purpose, but under different jurisdictions. For us as Moorish American Muslims, under our particular temple, which again is structured differently than a lot of Moorish temples out here. A lot of Moorish temples out here are not teaching what we teach. They will not deal with the subject of right to travel. They don't deal with any of the type of stuff that we normally deal with, right? We teach that any property that you have, you should put it under the trust of the temple. Because again, now I'm gonna show y'all something else too before this call is over. A religious corporation is a trust, and it's the highest form of trust that you can create. Remember, a trust is made up of a grantor, trustee, and beneficiary, right? It's three. You need Three entities. Again, that's that that trinity. What do you need for a religious corporation? Three people, right? The minimum three people to form a religious corporation. So the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations serves as our DMV for Moors or Moorish Americans under our particular temple, where we issue our own form of a driver's license. We don't call it a driver's, we call it a land transport ID. And we have plates that we put on the car. We have our own plate and everything, right? So when I do this demonstration on this particular subject, I'll bring all this stuff up. But again, this is the power of the religious corporation. And that's not the only time I was ever stopped, because when it comes to the right to travel and stuff, like, you'll get stopped. You're even if you are a diplomat from another country and you got foreign plates on your car and you driving around, if you do something crazy on the road, the police are gonna pull you over. But they have to proceed a certain type of way, right? I wish it was to the point where once they see our plates, they just be like, oh yeah, y'all, we already know what y'all on. But it's not enough of us out here exercising this right the way that I do and the way that our national Grand Sheik does. Because he drives the same way, he travels the same way too. His land transport is under, or his vehicle is under the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations too, right? Um, but yeah, so getting back to it, right? Another case is called Hosanna Tabor Evangelical Lutheran Church and School versus the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission from 2012, right? It says this landmark case emphasized the principle of religious autonomy. Y'all look that word up, right? We're not sovereign. We don't use the term sovereignty, right? We use the term autonomy or autonomous, right? When you look up the word autonomy, I'll just do it on the screen so everybody can see. Autonomy, AUTONO, or autonomous, right? So of a country or region, it says having the freedom to govern itself or control its own affairs. That's what we are. Religious autonomy. Even on our plate that we have under the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations, it has that religious autonomy, right? Because we have the ability to govern and control our own affairs, right? But the case emphasized the principle of religious autonomy, affirming that religious organizations or corporations have the right to govern their internal affairs without interference from the state. This is like, every time I read this type of stuff, it just get me going, because we got to understand we are free. We are free to govern ourselves. We choose volunteer. This is where like the 14th Amendment come in, because it says voluntary servitude is done away with. I mean, involuntary servitude. But so if involuntary servitude is no longer on the table, what does that mean is on the table? Voluntary servitude. They can't involuntarily put you into a position of being of servitude no more. Meaning, back in the days when slavery was around, they could just snatch you up. And if you fit the description of a Negro or whatever, you was going into bondage. They can't do that no more. They can't involuntarily do that to you. But what they can do to put you into servitude is voluntarily do so. And this is what we do when we contract with that birth certificate, that social security card, that driver's license, and any other type of contract under the state. This is what gives them the ability with DCF and all these different alphabet agencies to interfere in your business. This is why it says religious organizations have the right to govern their internal affairs without interference from the state, because there's a separation between religion and the state, between church and state. This concept is very simple to understand. It is not that complicated. I don't know what happened with the Moors, where there's this adverse position against religion, but everybody want to scream Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a religious man. He created a religious organization. What are you so adverse to a religion for, when it's the only thing that's going to protect you out here? Under the Constitution of the United States of America, there is no other thing that is exempt from interference from the state. I don't care. You could call yourself an Indian or a Native American. Ain't nowhere in the Constitution that says that Native Americans can't be that there's a free that no law can be made against the free exercise of being a Native American. It's not there. There's some tax exempt status that you might get as being identified as a Native American. You get some sort of tax, but religion gets that anyway. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like as Moors, we don't recognize our indigenous status either, because again, chapter 47 in the Moorish Holy Quran told us that we was already here before the Europeans. And nothing against Europeans. Like, I'm not bashing European. This is not a European bash society. We don't do that. We just recognize the historical implications between us and them. You know, we've been at odds for millennia. The Romans, and this go back to the Romans and the Moors and Carthage and Hannibal and the Romans and the Greek. Like this we've been warring against each other for a long time. And the thing about it is we are very distant brothers. We are very distant relatives, to be honest. That's another demonstration. But again, it says, including in matters that involve taxation, right? I ain't forget about the IRS form either. I'm gonna get back to that. Now it says federal tax exemption under 508C1A. Everybody write that down. 508C1A. This is not dealing with 501c3s. We're not talking about a 501c3 organization. Write that down too. Write this down. 501c1A versus 501c3, right? They're two different types of non-for-profit entities, right? A 508c1A is a religious not-for-profit organization. 501c3s can be any type of not-for-profit organization. You can have a 501c3 that has nothing to do with religion. You can have a how you say it? Atheist organization that's a 50c3 501c3, and they might get tax exemptions. That we're not talking about them, because a 501c3 still has to report to the IRS. It's still under IRS regulation. And you do have some religious societies and religious corporations that file for a 501c3 status. Why? I have no idea. I would never do so. I would never encourage to do so, because you're already a tax exempt entity. As a de jure religious corporation, a strictly pure religious corporation, you already by default and by nature, you're not for profit. You operate for charitable purposes. Everything that you're doing is for the benefit of your religious society, your God, for the wider society and community. Is all charitable, educational, all connected to that type of status. So there's no need to apply for a 501c3 status as a religious corporation. You already fall under the 508c1A. Again, write that down. Look up what a 508c1A is versus what a 501c3 is. There's a big difference, right? People, when they hear about what we're talking about now, they say, "Oh, nah, y'all can't do that. The IRS gonna run down on you," because they're thinking about a 501c3. There's no obligation to the IRS. There's no obligation to the state under a 508c1A. And you don't have to apply for a 508c1A from the IRS. As soon as you establish a religious corporation and you start operating that way, the IRS automatically, from their vantage point, looks at you and says, "Okay, 508c3, C1, 508c1A." If you establish a nonprofit organization under the state and you start operating and doing your thing, and you're not religious in nature, that's when the IRS is going to come to you and say, "Knock, knock. What do you think you're doing? Did you apply for a 501c3 status?" That's what's going to happen. Do you need an EIN number for a 508c1A to get a bank account? Great question, Elaine. Great question. Yes, you do. And there's a way to apply for that EIN number as well, that you keep it out of the kind of exemption, out of the taxable status. And you do that simply by applying for a trust EIN number, right? And when you do, because again, so let me show you under Connecticut law where let me Google, because I'm going to show you where a religious corporation is a trust entity too. Connecticut General Statutes 598. Because I live in Ohio now, but I'm originally, our religion originally, our temple is organized in Connecticut, and I love Connecticut because so like even in Ohio, right? If you wanted to establish a religious corporation, they make you establish it as a nonprofit. In Connecticut, it doesn't say like nonprofit; it just says religious corporation. The way that you're on file, everything is private. Like if we look up the filing status of our temple in Connecticut, there's no agent, there's no principal, there's no address, there's nothing, but it says active, right? But so let me show you again. So as far as the EIN number is concerned, you would, when you go on the irs.gov, so when you establish your religious corporation, you go on the IRS, you put all the information in there as you would. You would need like, because again, like with us, we convert and we take on a new name that doesn't have a social security number. But we have another document called the declaration of executorship over the estate trust. The estate trust is the name that you're born with on the social security card and on the birth certificate, where we then become the grantor and the beneficiary of that estate trust, taking ourselves out of the trustee position. Because under the United States, you're a trust, you in a trustee position. So we have a document for that, which gives us executor status over that entity, right? That name. It's just like if when somebody passes away, somebody becomes an executor over the estate, meaning they manage all the affairs of the estate of that person that's now decedent or a dissident or decedent, right? Passed away. It's the same process when we convert, that old person dies. So you become the executor now over that name, and you can do things and manage things in that name still, right? It gives you kind of power, beneficiary, grantorship status powers over that name, so you can still operate it. We encourage you to, you know, it depends on what you got going on too, but we definitely don't discourage not using it anymore necessarily. Like we're taught that you should do all business under your new name and leave that rest of that business to itself, because that's what our prophet teaches. But for purposes of like financing things in the credit realm, in the realm of credit, you could still, if you still have the ID, if you still have the social security card, only use it for that type of thing. Don't use it to go travel and get, if you do something crazy and the police stop you and they find that ID and they are able to associate you with that name, then now they have jurisdiction. We're taught to keep that private too, you know. But so when you apply for the EIN number, you're gonna have to use the old name because you have no social security number. Because if you apply for an EIN number, you have to use a social security number or some sort of tax identification number to get a new EIN. You can't apply for a new EIN and you don't have a social security. So you have to use the name in order to, get that. But there's some other stuff as well that you can do. But when you do go for it, you would get the trust, you set it up as a trust, and you make sure that you identify as for banking purposes only, right? You only get in this EIN number for for the religious corporation as a trust so that you can open up a bank account. You're not doing it so that you can do anything other than that, because that'll compromise uh the entity. So what I want to show you here is, so again, here it is. So section 33-264C powers, right? It says and I gotta kind of, my screen is a little different. So it says a religious society or a religious corporation formed under this section, or any other corporate or any corporation or voluntary association formed under part 2 of this chapter may hold, manage, acquire, purchase, sell, convey, and have and exercise any rights of ownership in real and personal property for the use and support of public worship of, or for any ecclesiastical, missionary, charitable, or educational purposes, right? So this is the stuff I was kind of talking about. But again, what it's saying is that the religious corporation can do all of these things. It can hold, manage, acquire, purchase, sell, convey property, real or personal property, right? So real property is like a home, car, uh, other businesses. Personal property is like, a pistol, um, a sidearm, jewelry, art, appliances and stuff like that. So you can hold it can do all of these things and exercise those rights of ownership. But again, it has to be for the use and support of public worship or for any ecclesiastical, missionary, charitable, or educational purposes. So mostly everything we do is missionary. Again, on the back of our 101s is a document called Our Authority, right? Where our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it states that um, we derive our power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and exercise the learning of truth of the great prophet of Ali in America, to appoint and consecrate missionaries. So we're missionaries. So most of our work is what they would consider ecclesiastical, missionary, charitable, or educational, right? And then it says grants, donations, devises, and bequests of real and personal property may be received and held in trust or otherwise for such purposes. So if anything is being held in trust, only a trust entity can hold something in trust, right? So this again is why I show you guys these laws, because it reinforces the fact. Because when 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 we hear Moors talk about the entity that the prophet set up, right? They talk about this 10105905 file number in the prophet's trust. Where's the prophet's trust that he took the land mandate under the trust? Hello, the religious corporate, the temple is the trust. This is why you can put your property under the temple. If you have, this is why in that video I showed on Instagram, this is why the lady said I have my car in my church, meaning the car is in the trust of the church, of the religious institution, which is protected by laws that separate it from the state and taxation. Everybody's looking for a way to be private and get around taxes, and it's the religious corporation. Like, this is not hard to understand. This is not rocket science, y'all. It's so easy. A fifth grader could do it, right? So again, great question. So key features of a 508c1A organization. The first one, automatic exemption. Churches, their integrated auxiliaries, and associations of churches are automatically considered tax exempt without needing to file Form 1023 or obtain IRS approval. I'm going to read that again. Key features of a 508c1A organization: automatic exemption. Churches, and when you see the word church, it's just religious society, right? Just think religious society or religious corporation, right? Somebody else coming in. Brother Tyrone. Okay. Okay. All right, I see you, Brother Ty. Um, so again, automatic exemption. churches. So when you see that word church, just think religious corporation because it doesn't have to do necessarily with just a Christian organization, right? They're integrated auxiliaries. Again, this is why it's important to, if you're going to do this, you need to become a member of some sort of religious society, right? You need to become a member of some sort of 508c1a organization because your business then can be integrated as an auxiliary of that organization or that religious society or corporation, which which would make you fall under this particular section, right? And it says, and its association of churches are automatically considered tax exempt without needing to file Form 1023 or obtain IRS approval. The next one is no annual filing requirement. A 501c3, which again is not a 508c1a, a 501c3 does have to do an annual filing. Even though they're tax exempt, they still have to report their business. And that's the beauty of the religious corporation is it keeps your information, how much you make, how many members you have, how many employees you may or people you may have, working for you, or like I said, membership status and stuff like that. All of this information is private. We don't have to file annually. How many members do you have? How much money y'all bringing in? Because again, in terms of uh again, because like as Moorish American Muslims under our temple, we understand that we are a separate nation of people. Our religious corporation is our government entity. So our temple serves as our state, for lack of better terms, right? We're not citizens of, even though I may reside in the territory known as Ohio, I am not a citizen of the state of Ohio. I'm a member or a citizen of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Free and Sunday Moorish Science Temple of America, which is my state, is my government. As a matter of fact, I'm an official of that government and a member or a citizen. So even though you live in a territory, it's a separation. This is a key component. And this is why, you know, us not having to report our membership status is so important because that would give them tabs on how many people are part of our society, you know, which is would compromise the integrity of our organization, right? It's not that we trying to be secretive or anything about it's none of your business. At the end of the day, it's none of your business. You know what I'm saying? So it says these organizations are not required to file annual information returns or Form 990, reducing government oversight and preserving religious freedom. Again, this religion thing is powerful, y'all. It's so overlooked, and there's a ill kind of perspective towards religion and religious societies. A lot of people just have misconceptions about it. You know, whatever the gripe or grief is about I don't dwell on that type of stuff. It's like me personally, I'm sincere about my walk with Allah, my creator. That's just me. Like I don't play about this thing. Like I told you, I don't have a driver's license, a state ID, or any of that. You know what I mean? Um, and I've operated like that for a long time, and I've been able to be successful, and I've learned a lot, right? But I'm sincere about this. Like if there was ever an issue where there was a question about who I am, anybody that knows me knows, oh, that's him all day. What I'm saying? That's how he operate. That's how he move. That's how I travel. Even when I go to the airport, you know, I have to go through extra screening because I don't have a regular ID. Sometimes it's a headache, especially now with the new laws that they have around this real ID thing and some of the stuff that they're instituting in some of these places. It's best to just travel by road, right? Like, until we figure other things out. But it is what it is. Again, this is why I told y'all in the beginning, when you going into trying to do this type of thing and you want to operate this way, you need to be sincere about it, right? Don't if you're not a religious person, you don't believe in God. It's like I can't operate like that. Like I can't be on the fence about so like if I'm in something, I got to be in it because it's something that I really enjoy and have a passion about, and I'm passionate about my faith and my walk, as a Moorish American Muslim. So, I'm confident in my ability to not only teach this, but I do this myself. I wouldn't be on here telling y'all this is how you can move and this is how you can do things if I didn't do this myself, right? Again, the business that I operate, I'm in the financial institution. I operate a financial business where I help people fix their credit so that they can, get access to financing, business funding, home, car loan, higher credit limits and stuff like that. But my business that I have is organized and incorporated under our temple as a religious corporation. I do it. I do it personally. So it's like I'm not telling y'all something that it's not something that I don't do, right? And then lastly, it says First Amendment protections. 508c1a status ensures minimal government interference in alignment with the First Amendment. By operating under 508c1a, religious corporations remain free from burdensome regulatory compliance while benefiting from tax exemptions. Now, here we go with the vow of poverty, right? Vow of poverty and religious corporation activities. Members of religious orders who have taken a vow of poverty are afforded additional protections under IRS regulations. A vow of poverty is a solemn promise made by an individual to renounce personal ownership of material possessions, often in service to a religious community. Now, let me break down how and why this is vital and is also what other people are essentially trying to accomplish by operating a trust, right? Because when you operate a trust, the income is not yours. It belongs to the trust. This is and that's how people are trying to minimize taxes because the income that they derive passes not through them personally. It passes through the trust, which is a minimally taxed entity, right? And then what they'll do is they'll pass down the profits. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to take some of that bread, that money, and you have to live off of some of it. You got rent to pay, car insurance, you got this, that, and the third. But this is why all of these things need to be under the temple, like to be honest, where you stay, where you live, your car, anything that you are any property that you have. Again, if we go back to the law on under the state of Connecticut, it talks about how the religious corporation can hold, manage, acquire, purchase, sell, convey, and exercise any rights of ownership in real and personal property. So the religious corporation can own the car. You can transfer the title into the religious corporation. Now, whether you paying a note on the car to a dealership, that's something different. You know, you have to work that out with the dealership. Some of them might not be willing to do a financing with a religious corporation. It depends, though. The religious corporation can prove that it can sustain through bank statements or through some other means of verifying income, then they might do a deal with you and say, all right, well, you can put the note in that entity name because based on your monthly bank statements that's coming in through we can see that you can handle that payment. There's a way to do that too. That's a topic for another discussion though. But the home, because real and personal property is car, home, etc. Right? So all of that should be connected to the religious corporation. Again, it's a solemn promise made by an individual to renounce personal ownership of material possessions. This is why we're putting everything in the name of the religious corporation. We're putting everything under the religious corporation, which is the same thing you're doing with a trust. You're putting the car, the home, the income that you derive, you're putting it under the trust so you can defer it and it's not in your personal name. Remember, there's a saying in business when it comes to estate planning, own nothing but control everything. I don't want anything in my personal name, right? And just to reiterate this fact, this is also what we're told in our Moorish literature, right? So our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in a document called Think This Over, You Moors, he hits on this, right? In the first paragraph, sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in the seven, so the first paragraph, seven sentence, it says, the treasurer will tend to the responsibility of seeing that the money is in the bank. Yes. And under the name of Moore Science Temple of America Finance, when needed, act according to the law pertaining to the procedure of performing an emergency act. Right. So that's dealing with the income coming in under the name of the temple or the name of the trust through the treasurer, right? As a religious corporation, as a business entity, if you want to, if you want to create a tax exempt business entity as a religious corporation, you should designate a treasurer, right? One of the people that go on file with you, because again, you need three people. One person should be the treasurer. You could be the grantor. You should have another person that's the treasurer, and then the other person should be a secretary. Those would be the positions of whatever you're establishing, but you need two other people, right? Um, it says in the second paragraph, the second sentence, he says, when any said temple desires to purchase property, here we go, property, they must first notify the grand body or the prophet, and it must be purchased under the name of the Moore Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. An individual name should never be applied. So purchasing property, whether it's a home, a car, a table, a firearm, etc., an individual name should never be applied because why? I don't. I want to control it. I don't want to own it. I don't want it in my name because why? Possession is 9/10 of the law. Y'all follow what I'm saying? It again. Take the religious aspect out of this. When you watch Instagram and you on YouTube and you listening to these financial gurus and they telling you, yeah, the Rockefellers, John Rockefeller said, own nothing, control everything. And this is why you want to place it in a trust because it's not in your personal name. So if you get sued, there's no liability on you personally. That's what we talking about right now. And you're doing it under an entity that has the highest form of protection from the state and the IRS. It's already spelled out and laid out in the law. But you're not religious though. So, you know, go create your little trust. Go jump through all these hoops and do all this running around your elbow to get to your thumb to get this, do all that. It's cool. It's already laid out on a silver platter for us. If we would just fall in line and do what our prophet Noble Drew Ali told us to do, we would be fine. We wouldn't have to. This is not a. It's not even up for discussion for real. If I could just wave a magic wand and get everybody to really just understand this concept, I, I I'd be happier than a pig. And you know what? Astaghfirullah. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, the Balahi, man. You know, but it's not that simple. You know what I'm saying? So again, the vow poverty already handles all of this for us, right? It is the document that solidifies that, hey, I don't own nothing. Yeah, it may be $1 million coming through this entity. 5 million. It ain't mine. You tax who on it? I have no personal ownership to none. None. It benefits my society, my community, my family, who's part of my society and my community. That's why you come into the temple, get your family in the temple too. Yeah, everybody need to become members. And we all need to get on this type of time and establish these religious courts so we could get industrious, so we could be industrious, get busy, and legally be, we don't gotta report to nobody. How much we making is between us. All our records is private. We ain't got to give up nothing. Legally, their law says this. This is not Akeem Bey. This ain't just some Morris science stuff. This is just the what's on the books. This is the law. So it says how a vow of poverty works. Assignment of income. Members of a religious order assign their income to the religious corporation. The IRS considers this income exempt from taxation because it belongs to the tax-exempt religious corporation, not the individual. It's just like a sign. So again, take the religious aspect out of it, the religious corporation. Say you just created some sort of trust. You'd be creating some sort of the vow of poverty would act as the instrument that says, hey, as the trustee of this entity, right? My duty is to operate it, but I have no person that none of this is personally mine. If it comes in, it passes right through from me to the trust. It's the same. This is the same thing that it's talking about right here. This the language is using. But again, the only thing that is 100% tax exempt in under the United States laws is religion, is a religious organization, religious corporation. This is one of the reasons why our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right, in Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America, since the paragraph 5, since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation because the prophet wasn't always operating under a religious corporation. He was doing business as a civic organization, which back in them times was probably the equivalent of a 50C3, a 501c3, meaning he still had to report and do filing with the Secretary of State. So he said, hold up, we doing charitable stuff. Everything we doing is religious. It has a religious undertone. Man, let me go legally change this to a religious corporation. And then boom, he went private. He ain't have to report nothing to nobody. He's operating in the religious status of autonomy, self-governing. That's when he was like, oh, okay. And his religious corporation was making a lot of money back in them days. In the 1920s, the prophet was a multimillionaire. His, well, not personally, but his organization was making millions of dollars, tens of thousands every month between membership dues and the Moorish Manufacturing Company, where they were making, where they were producing or publishing newspapers. They were sending, they had pamphlets for sale. He had his tonics, his teas, his bombs and stuff like that. He was very industrious. And there were Moors that once the organization started growing so fast, he had to put people in position that he thought was competent enough and that wasn't going to betray him. And when he went off, on to check to check on the temples and stuff, he was gone for about 3 months. During that time, they did a coup against him. His business manager, Claude Green Bay, and some other Moors. that were part of the Chicago temple and the Detroit temples. His two best temples. They had the highest membership. They was bringing in the most finance. These individuals was able to flip these two temples against the prophet, take the majority of some of his members, and they took his business. They took the manufacturing company with the teas and the tonics and all that stuff and relocated it. When he came back, all his property was on the street. All his office stuff was on the street. There was some other Moors that stayed loyal to him, but they didn't have any finance. This is why the prophet said, I need finance and I need it bad. Because those Moors, this is why when you read the letter to be read at every meeting, he talks about those that are part of our government that found out the truth, that thought it was only a joke and unreal. But now they were working every scheme that they can to disqualify him so that they could take charge of the situation. I need finance and I need it bad. Never before have I needed finance. Why? This is a multi-millionaire at that time talking about I need finance because they stole his money, stole his temples, stole his membership, and kicked him out. The one that came and saved them, showed them the way. This back in the 1920s. You know how that you know what that made them, you know how that made the prophet feel, man. So things had to happen. And unfortunately, we lost our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali during that whole thing. Same thing that happened to Prophet Muhammad. There were those that were part of his inner circle back in those times because the Prophet Muhammad died from poisoning. He was poisoned. And those that were apprehensive to joining his movement, those that were from the city of Mecca, ended up taking over his movement. Because remember, when the Prophet Muhammad was on the scene, he was preaching in Mecca for 12 years. The Meccans drove him out. They said, nah, you coming with that new religious stuff? You about to drive away all our business. These people come here and they worship their gods and they do what they want to do. They pay us their money to come here. They stay in our hotels. They buy our food. They come every month. They got a special time of the year where they always come. They come to this Kaaba. Everybody got their little guard set up. You come in here trying to tell that there's only one God and everybody got to serve that. Now you got to go. You about to slow up our business. You out here stirring up trouble like Jesus did back when he was telling people that they didn't have to sacrifice. So the priesthood back then, Jesus' time, said, oh no, you got to go. People bring all the animals to us every year, multiple times a year, and we perform the sacrifice. We keep the meat and resell it. And you trying to tell us that they don't got to do that? No, brother Jesus, you got to go. Same thing with Muhammad. So the people in Mecca kicked Muhammad out. And then he went to Medina or Yathrib. And it was the Arab Jews, the Jewish Arabs or Hebrew Arabs there that took him in and said, look, we see what you're trying to do. We see what you're bringing. You bringing the oneness of Allah and the Most High to your people. We're going to support you. We're going to back you. And they went to war with the Meccans, the same people where his clan, where he was from, that kicked him out, went to war with him with new people from a different city. These Meccans went to war with him. He ended up defeating them, and then they converted to Islam and followed him. But as he started to take over more and more of Arabia, he somehow got poisoned, mysteriously poisoned, and then the same Meccans that was against him took over his movement. That's what happened to Muhammad. Same thing that happened to Noble Drew Ali. Same thing that happened to Brother Jesus in his movement back in that time. It was taken over by the Romans. Just like now, the modern day Jews have taken over the Judaism. Same thing with modern day Muslims. They've taken over the Islamic Ummah. Now they follow Hadith. that promote stuff like going to Mecca to kiss a rock because it's gonna forgive your sins, and that Muhammad did it. So if Muhammad did it, we're gonna do it. Nowhere in the Quran do you find anything about kissing a rock or walking around the Kaaba 7 times. None of that is but it's in Hadith. According to Jewish tradition, when a baby born, the priest bite the baby's private parts, and that's not in the Bible. These foreign customs of people that were never a part of our deen originally, that stole the deen and created their own new deen on top of it. This is what's going to happen to Moorish science if we don't step our game up. I digress. I digress. Let me get back to it. Right. Again, how the vow of poverty works. The next one is living expenses. Members' basic needs, such as housing, food, and healthcare, are provided by the religious corporation, ensuring that they do not personally benefit in a taxable manner. Right. Again, this is why you want to have your business under the temple, because now any money that comes through at you know through your business to you as the operator of the business, no personal ownership or whatever, can you be used to take care of your everyday expenses to live. You got to pay your rent. You need to put clothes on your back. You need to put food on your table. You got to put gas in your vehicle to get around. You got to pay your vehicle if you got a note on it or insurance or whatever the case might be. We don't pay insurance and stuff like that once the vehicle is placed under the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigation. We don't pay taxes on it no more, none of that. So that's an expense that you can do away with. Doesn't mean that if you get into an accident and you cause damage to somebody else's vehicle that you are not in some way liable, but it doesn't fall on you personally. It falls back on the temple or the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigation. We got to figure out, how to pay them out or whatever the case might be. IRS guidance. The IRS recognizes that income earned by individuals under a vow of poverty as part of their service to the religious order is not taxable to the individual. See IRS publication 517, Social Security and other information for members of clergy and religious workers. So y'all write that down. IRS publication 517. IRS publication 517. Again, this is dealing with the income earned by individuals under a vow of poverty as part of their service to the religious order. This is why the business needs to be connected to the temple or the religious organization or corporation. Don't just go out there and again, this is not what I'm saying. This big disclaimer. If you are not a part of a religious order or society, this is not for you. Now, if you want to go start your own little religious thing and then do what you got to do, you know what I mean? But if you're not part of something, because again, if you do this and the IRS does run down on you, what leg you gonna stand on? Don't go saying, "Oh, I heard from Brother Akeem, you know, he's a Moor. He was teaching how to do this, and I just went and did it." Mm-mm. Big disclaimer. It's not what I'm saying, do. Again, I already told y'all before, you got to be sincere about this thing. Like, don't play with these people, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to play around and they're going to lock you up and you're going to be in jail for tax fraud or tax evasion or something like that. That's not what I'm kicking right now. Be sincere. Don't play with Allah. Don't play with God. I'm not saying this because again, I'm not saying this because I'm just somebody that just stumbled upon this information and I was thirsty to not be paying tax and I just went and going and just did something and now I'm up here teaching this. I've been doing this for years. I've been operating the way I've been operating for years. There's people on this call that will tell y'all. Yeah, Grand Sheik, the National Grand. Yeah, they got when they travel, Their cars don't got regular plates on them. They don't put nothing, they property, none of they by the book with this religious stuff in the temple, right? So religious corporations as vehicles for business activities, right? Religious corporations can legally operate businesses as long as the business activities align with the organization's religious mission. Income generated by these businesses is typically exempt from federal income tax if it is used to further the religious or charitable objectives of the corporation, right? Another key thing that, your business should be doing is paying some sort of business franchise tax or business franchise to the organization, to the temple, right? So if it's just once a month, every quarter, or once a year, biannually, or something like that, you should be donating from, or something should be being put aside to cover, the religious corporation or the society, right? Or it should fall within the objectives of the religious corporation. So key considerations for religious corporation operating businesses, right? Number one, unrelated business income tax, right? If a religious corporation engages in activities unrelated to its religious purpose, it may be subject to unrelated business income tax. However, many religious corporations structure their business activities to ensure they align with their mission, avoiding this tax. Right. So, and this is like one of those broad, kind of ambiguous and vague type things. I mean, it's really not much that you can't tie your own business activities to whatever the religious corporation is, whatever the mission is. Again, my business personally provides financial services, right? Our profit talks about economic security and finances, right? Right. He talks about things like he needed finances now more than ever, stuff like that. So my type of business, right? We have to promote being industrious, these type of things. This is the type of, business that falls in line with the mission of our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, right? Um, Legal protections for members. And so even if you, again, even if you have, a business where you help people with their taxes, or you got a landscaping business and stuff like that, like again, the business, there's always a way to be able to tie what you do to the mission of your religious organization or your religious society, right? There's always a way, right? So legal protection for members. Members of religious orders who have taken a vow of poverty and operate businesses under the auspices of a religious corporation are protected from personal taxation. The income belongs to the corporation, not the individual. Again, this is why I make the comparison to the trust. Albeit and although the religious corporation is a trust, remember, we already went over that in the Connecticut General Statutes, where it says that these grants, donations, devises, bequests of real and personal property is also can be considered income too. You can donate a portion of your income from your check, up to I think 50 to 60% this year, to a religious society or corporation. When Trump was in office last time, it was 100% of your check you could do, right? It says it may be received and held in trust, right? Again, a religious society or corporation, and any grants, donations, devises, bequests of real and personal property may be received and held in trust. This is why I said it before. The religious corporation is a type of not-for-profit trust, meaning it's a type of tax-exempt trust. It's the highest form of a tax-exempt trust. Brother Jarrell, I see you, man. Appreciate you jumping on. And again, y'all, this is being recorded. I'm going to upload it. I think I'm gonna upload this to YouTube, and I'll probably send you guys the playback, the recorded playback as well. So just look for that in your email, maybe at some point in time, or just check the YouTube channel, because it literally costs for me to send out these emails from the website. So the email that you guys get before you jump on a call, it costs me to send that out. So to save on some money, I'm probably just gonna upload it to YouTube, and you can just check the YouTube page, or I might upload it to the website. I'm gonna create uh, a page where you can listen to the playbacks, and I'm gonna backdate. I'm gonna upload a couple other ones, a lot of other ones as well. I just got this Zoom link back up, so all the access to the videos and all old videos and stuff that we've done, that'll be up there too for y'all that want to get more familiar with what it is that we teach here, et cetera, et cetera. But again, the income belongs to the corporation and not the individual. This is why the vow of poverty is so important. And I would not advise you to create a religious corporation until you've done that vow of poverty. Like, just because it's an added form of protection. Just like I said, in case the IRS or something like that ever wants to like run down on you and say, hey, you operate in a religious corporation. Well, what religious society are you part of? You pull up, you pull out that vow of poverty. Boom, a part of, you know, Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Friends Hundred Moorish Science Temple of America. I took the vow of poverty. You know, however you want to, do that. So again, supporting case law for tax exempt status and vow of poverty. Commissioner versus First Security Bank of Utah. This case clarified the application of tax exempt income when associated with religious or charitable purposes, underscoring the importance of proper assignment of income to tax exempt entities. Right? That's why you want to operate under a religious corporation if you're going to do business. Simple. I'm I, I operate a religious corporation. I'm part of a religious corporation that's doing business. Income don't belong to me. You can't tax the tax exempt entity, you know? Um, the second one is McClure versus Salvation Army, 1982. The court ruled that ministers working for religious organizations under specific agreements, including vows of poverty, are exempt from certain tax obligations due to their unique religious roles. So again, myself, for example, I'm a minister. Under our society, we call ourselves grand sheiks. So I'm a grand sheik. I was appointed by my head official, my national grand sheik, Jelani Bey. Um, I have uh, uh, my vow of poverty. You know what I'm saying? And other documentation that supports my status as a minister, right? Um, and so with those type of documents, I can substantiate who I am. This is why, again, I encourage you guys that are listening to this. If you're thinking about establishing a tax exempt business entity, you need to be able to prove that you are part of some sort of organization, right? Don't just go out there, you just some random Joe Smo. Even if you do proclaim to be a Moorish American, you need to be able to substantiate that fact, right? Do you have? Are you connected to a real temple? Is do you have an identification that's issued by a real temple? Do you have any supporting documentation that's issued by that organization that could substantiate your claim? Because just saying, "Oh, I proclaim my nationality as a Moorish American Muslim," you could scream it at the top of your lungs on top of the Empire State Building with the loudest blowhorn you want. If you don't got no documentation to support what you're saying, that can connect you back to a real religious organization or religious corporation, that's Moorish, you don't have anything to stand on, and they're gonna fry you in court. Telling you, this is very important to understand. This is not what we preaching over here. This is not what we're teaching. We don't want to see anybody getting fried and toasted in court because they took something and ran with it and didn't protect themselves properly. You know what I'm saying? Jimmy Swaggart Ministries versus Board of Equalization, 1990. It says, while this case addresses sales taxes, the Supreme Court reaffirmed that imposing undue taxation on religious practices could violate constitutional protections. Practical steps for setting up a 508c1a religious corporation. Incorporation. Make sure you file articles of incorporation as a religious organization in your state. Adopt bylaws. Establish bylaws that outline the religious mission and governance of the corporation. So, part of our temple, and what was established by our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we have what's called a constitution and bylaws. A divine constitution and bylaws, right? Which does spell out, and I think it's Article 7 about children being industrious, right? As members of our organization, we are all children under our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We're supposed to be industrious, right? So that's part of our creed. Part of our creed. Documentation of vow of poverty. For members of religious orders, ensure that the vow of poverty is properly documented and adhered to. It's very important, right? Assign income. Set up procedures to assign income earned by members to the religious corporation. Operate in alignment with the mission. Ensure all business activities directly support the religious mission to avoid unrelated business income tax issues, right? So again, this is why we say if you have a business, put it under the temple, incorporate it as a religious organization or religious corporation under our temple, because that way it will be connected to the temple, and you can explain doing business as a religious corporation with whatever type of businesses it is that you're doing. Because if you say, look, hey guys, I'm a landscaper, I do landscaping, I want to put my landscaping business under the temple, right? And we say, hey, we support you. You're being industrious as the mission of our corporation it requires of you to do. You're being a good Moorish American Muslim by going out there, making the landscape look better for your neighbors and for, the wider society. We would love to have that under our temple as part of, our mission. What type of work do you do? Do you operate with integrity? Yes, I do. We're going to help you put that under the temple. Now you're in alignment with the mission. No matter what business you do. Again, hey, you guys, I'm a member. I help people with their taxes. I want to put my tax business under the corporation. You're being a good American Muslim, operating industriously. You're helping people out in the world, either your fellow Moorish brothers and sisters, whether they do identify as Moors or they consider themselves Black. You might got European clients. You're helping the society. You operate in integrity. You're not trying to help people, fudge their books and get them more money from the government than they really require. Yeah, of course, absolutely. Because you're a good Moorish American Muslim. We would love to have that type of business under our organization. We're gonna help you incorporate that. You sell perfume, clothes. You got a clothing brand. Hey, I got a clothing brand. I'm out here. I'm trying to, get our people fly. You know what I'm saying? Da, 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 da. Where you getting your materials from? Are they being are you getting them in a way that operates with some sort of integrity? You're not using animal product, or you might sell shampoos and like perfumes or something. Ain't no animal products and stuff in it. No, it's all organic. Okay, that's in alignment with our holistic mission, because we do have a holistic ministry. We would love to help you put that under our temple. Whatever type of business you operate. Y'all follow what I'm saying? right? And then in conclusion, right, religious corporations operating under 508c1a status enjoy robust legal protections under the U.S. Constitution, federal tax laws, and IRS regulations. Through careful adherence to these laws, religious corporations can operate tax-free while supporting the needs of their members who take vows of poverty. Case laws such as Walls versus Tax Commission and IRS guidelines affirm these protections, ensuring that religious organizations can thrive without fear of undue government interference or taxation. Whether for worship, charity, or business, religious corporations structured under 508c1a remain a powerful legal tool for advancing faith-based missions while securing financial and legal safeguards. And just to go back to IRS Form 4361 and take a look at it again, because I didn't finish with it. I wanted to show you where it deals with the tax exempt status of the vow of poverty. Straighten out my screen. All right. So again, this is Form 4361, application for exemption from self-employment tax for use by ministers, members of religious orders, and Christian Science practitioners. So I'm gonna just scroll down to the bottom of the page, right? This is where I want you to take note of with the vow of poverty and the automatic exemption, right? So it's saying right here, right? It says ministerial services in general is the service you perform in the exercise of your ministry, in the exercise of the duties required by your religious order, or in the exercise of your profession as a Christian Science practitioner. Ministerial earnings are the self-employment earnings that result from such service. See publication 517. Remember, we referenced publication 517 in what we just read, right? It says this: do not file 4361. So again, you don't have to file this form if, and these are the two circumstances if. The first one is if you ever file Form 2031, which is a revocation of exemption from self-employment tax for use by ministers, members of religious orders, and Christian Science practitioners. So you don't have to file this form, right? If you filed a revocation of this form, right? So basically, if you file that, so you could be a minister, right? And you can voluntarily say, hey, I revoke my exemption status. You can tax me. I'm going to go file Form 2031. So again, as a minister, you could say, hey, I want to pay taxes. I'm going to file the revocation. I'm going to revoke my exemption status as a minister or a member of a religious organization or Christian Science practitioner. I'm going to revoke it. So if you filled out one of those, you don't have to file one of these because you already revoked your status. You want to pay taxes as a minister, which if that's your prerogative, go ahead and do so. But you don't have to file this form. The second reason that you wouldn't have to file it is if you belong to a religious order and took a vow of poverty. Listen to what it says. You are automatically exempt from self-employment tax on earnings for your services you perform for your church, religious corporation, or its agencies. No tax exemption applies to earnings for services from the performance of other organizations. So again, if you have a vow of poverty, you don't even have to file this exemption form. You're automatically exempt. This is why I said that. This is why I put in that writing. The vow of poverty is so powerful and it's very important. Again, as a religious society, our temple, we have this document for our members. You have to pay for, there's a fee associated with receiving a document, but it's not a crazy fee that nobody can afford. But look at what it does for you. It puts you in this type of position where you're automatically exempt. You don't even got to fill out this form. You don't got to explain yourself. The IRS ever come to you about anything? Hey, I have my vow of poverty. I renewed my vow of poverty. Your law says this. again, I'm just showing y'all the case law, the laws on the books, and the IRS the laws and stuff like that that support what we're talking about. And again, I'm not here telling y'all do anything that I haven't done or I've taken my vow of poverty. I operate my religious corporation under my our temple. Again, if you guys have any questions, y'all know where I'm at on Instagram. The website is back up. You can, drop your comments, in the message contact form. Um, I hope to see some of y'all back on the call next week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to send out an email on Sunday to join our Sunday school because I'm going to go over some things on our Sunday school call, not related to the religious corp, what we're talking about today. The Sunday school call is going to be dealing with our doctrine, right? I'm going to go into some things about, the teachings of our prophet Noble Drew Ali, and dig into the Bible and the Quran. This is going to be religious studies. So on Fridays, our holy days, I'll deal with certain different topics around you know tax exempt status of the religious corporation, how to establish it, right to travel, those type of topics and stuff like that. uh and then on Sundays, we're going to get back to our Sunday school classes. These will be posted on the website. There may be a fee associated with accessing them, you know what I mean? Because we have to maintain the link that we're using right now with Zoom is not free. It's recorded. There's a fee every month for it. We need to sustain this. If you guys like this information, so, support the cause. You know what I'm saying? I'm up here every Friday, and will be Sunday. Our National Grand Sheik, same thing. So if you guys are interested in learning more, join the cause. Again, the email will be going out. If anybody has any questions, any comments or any concerns or anything like that, and you want to voice your opinion, you can say something now. We got about a couple more minutes before we end for the evening. If not, like I said, you know how to get in contact with me. You can DM me on Instagram or anything like that. What's up, brother Cam?
Islam Assistant National Grant.
Islam.
Just wondering when you're gonna put this out on YouTube.
I'm gonna try to get it out. I'm gonna try to get it up either tonight or the latest tomorrow.
Okay. Islam.
Islam, more. Yes, sir.
Islam, Grand Sheik.
Islam, more.
Answer your phone sometimes.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Huh.
Du- Duly noted. Duly noted. I'll be I'll be
Islam.
I'll be super busy though. What's up now, brother Cam?
Yeah, so just wanted to brief, discuss.
Hmm.
I have my paperwork and everything. I
Hmm.
know at the time I was getting ready to go ahead and send it through, but I think, and I had spoke to a national grant about this too. Uh, but he was caught up going, dealing with some things. I mentioned to him at the time when I was getting ready to go through. Um, they told me to hold back off on it, and because I think it was some changes or whatever that was being added on to or whatnot,
Hmm.
and that's the reason why I didn't get, didn't finish because I was waiting to see uh, what was needed to be done before I, proceeded into doing anything, going through the procedure stuff.
So what was you trying to do through the town or whatever?
Well, I was going to do the conversion,
Hmm.
and I think at the time they said to hold back because I really don't know what was being done. Like I said, I still have my paperwork, but I don't know if there was an upgrade being done or whatnot. So uh, that's the reason why I didn't go through with the conversion because I was waiting to see what was being done to update it or whatnot.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I think the National Grand was like kind of handling your file. I'm not sure it was being updated or anything like that, but
All
um,
right.
I mean, you should be able to like if you need to file something or do something like that with them, like I'm pretty sure, you should be able to whatever you have on, with you, you should be able to file or do what you need to do. And then once it's updated, you can go to them and say, hey, look, I want to amend or, add this to, the filing or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Where you could present, the new paperwork or documentation or whatever, but you should be able to get it done, without
Uh,
having updated. Yeah.
stop.
Mhm. All right, more. So it's 10:01. We want to, open and close promptly according to, our teachings. So we're gonna go ahead and close this meeting with the Moorish American prayer. And like I said, we'll be back on Sunday, with Sunday school. So, look out for the email. Those that did get the email, those that's in the group chat, what I'm saying, I'll make sure to drop it in the group chat that we do on Sunday school. So it'll be Sunday at 8 p.m. So, just look out for that. All right. So as long, like I said, we're gonna close the meeting out with the Moorish American prayer. Rising to our highest height, facing the east, feet on a 45-degree angle each foot, forming a 90-degree angle with both feet. Arms up on the perpendicular, 5 fingers on the right, 2 fingers on the left. I mean, 5 fingers on the left, 2 fingers on the right. And repeat after me.
Father of the universe. Father of love, truth.
Peace, freedom,
Freedom
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
My
my God,
guide
and my salvation
and
and my
my salvation
salvation
by night and by day,
by
by
night
night
and
and by day.
through his holy prophet,
through his
Through
holy
his holy
prophet,
prophet,
Drew Ali.
through
Drew
Ali.
Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Salam.
All right, y'all.
Islam, Grand Sheik.
Islam more.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Moors. Peace and love.
Mhm.